Hello and welcome back to another FPL captaincy video where we go through all of the important stats that you're going to need to know to determine the best captaincy for this week, which is game week 34. Now last week we ended up going for Marmoush in his double game week and somehow we had got the absolute minimum out of him and he picked up 2 points in both matches. Of course our other alternative was either Saka or Salah, who both were disappointing as captaincies, so we were kind of screwed when it came to the best captaincy according to the stats last week. So we're hoping for a better week this week. It is blank game week 34 and there is 4 teams now without a match, so we have 4 more picks as well, players with fantastic fixtures, and let's see who they're going to be. So this week we have picked out 4 more players. We've got Salah against Spurs at home. We have Alexander Isak against Ipswich. At home we have Matheus Cunha up against Leicester, and we also have Evan Nilsson against Manchester United at home. So all 4 of our players have home fixtures this week. Obviously quite difficult when trying to pick 4 players because there is a lot of players with good fixtures this week. There's also Raul Jimenez against Southampton. He's playing away from home this week. You've also got players like Danny Welbeck, who's obviously set to start at striker for Brighton at home to West Ham. But looking at the 4 players, these are the 4 I've decided to go with. I think Salah, Isak and Cunha are your obvious choices, and I've decided to throw in Evan Nilsson in there as well. So let's take a look at our stats for this week. So predicted points are back down to normal with there not being any double game weeks, and we have Mohamed Salah leading the way on both websites, on FPL Team and Fantasy Football Hub, with 8.5 and 8.1 predicted points. So he is our top scorer, our top predicted scorer on both websites this week, followed by Alexander Isak, who is matched on both websites with 7.1 predicted points. Matheus Cunha is sitting in third with 6.3 on Fantasy Football Hub and 5.1 on FPL Team, and then it's Evan Nilsson in at number 4 with 5.3 and only 3.6 on FPL Team, so he isn't expected to do too well there. Looking at the expected minutes of all 4 of our players, there's only one player not expected to play all 90 minutes, and it is Isak. He's only expected to play 7 to 8 and be substituted quite early, which of course isn't going to be ideal when looking to pick a captaincy option. But he is joint top for return chances this week with 71%, which is joint with Mohamed Salah. In second/third place it is Matheus Cunha with only a 57% chance of a return, which is a fair bit lower than the likes of Salah and Isak. And then with only a 49% chance it is Evan Nilsson with a lower than expected chance of returning against Manchester United. Now this is where it starts to get interesting, because looking at the odds, Mohamed Salah and Alexander Isak are both the exact same, with a 59% chance of scoring at least 1 goal, a 24% chance of scoring 2 or more goals, and both opponents, Spurs and Ipswich, are both given a 7% chance of a clean sheet. So it's neck and neck between both of them right now. Of course, at the minute, Mohamed Salah does have the advantage with the higher expected minutes, and of course you could argue that the added bonus is that it is Liverpool's title day. If they go and draw or win the match, they are confirmed Premier League champions, which might give them that extra boost. Of course, that is all mental. There's no actual stats backing that Mohamed Salah would do better there, but it is always something that you can keep in mind. After that, we've got Matheus Cunha with a 45% chance of scoring, which again is a fair bit lower than our other 2 players, but he is quite close to Evan Nilsson, who has a 42% chance of scoring. Again, those 2 are pretty similar when it comes to the odds, 14% chance to 11% for 2 or more goals, and both opponents have a 17% chance of a clean sheet this week. As far as set pieces go, it is our 2 main guys with the penalties in Salah and Isak, the 2 obvious captaincy shouts for this week. Our other 2 picks are Cunha and Evan Nilsson, both who aren't penalty takers, which is always a big factor. I think Cunha is sitting about 3rd or 4th in the ranking for penalties, so very unlikely that he does end up taking any. Evan Nilsson, pretty similar. Kluivert is obviously the main penalty taker for Bournemouth, so whether you want to be picking a striker not on penalties as a captain isn't really the best idea in my opinion. So right now I think looking at it, it is definitely between Salah and Isak. Again, all the odds and everything that we've looked at so far is favouring both of those players, and of course they are both the main penalty takers for their respective teams. Now, obviously, no European football this week, which means our teams have a full week's rest if they didn't have a double game week this week, which none of our players did. And Mohamed Salah again has that slight edge over Alexander Isak with that one extra day rest over him. He's playing against Spurs on Sunday, which is the later kickoff, which is about 4:30 as far as I'm aware. And then Isak is playing against Ipswich on Saturday. So an extra day there for Mohamed Salah, if that is something that you do like to consider. Looking at Cunha and Evan Nilsson, Cunha is also playing on Saturday along with Isak, and then Evan Nilsson has the earlier game on the Sunday. I think it's the 2 or 2:30 kickoff against Manchester United. So a lot of very weak defences for our 4 choices this week. Spurs for Mohamed Salah are currently the 4th worst defence in the league, and that's only behind the 3 relegation teams in Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton. So Spurs are the worst of the rest with a 42.6 expected goals conceded. Only 51 goals conceded though, which isn't too bad, and there is a big difference between Spurs and the top 3, as you can see by Ipswich down below alongside Isak, who have a 65.8 expected goals conceded, and they are sitting in 3rd. So you're looking at almost a 13 expected goals conceded, difference between 3rd and 4th place, with also, a 20 goal margin between Ipswich and Spurs when it comes to actual goals conceded. Now, Cunha is the one playing against the worst defence of our 4 picks, with Leicester, who are the 2nd worst for expected goals conceded, and they've conceded the most goals of our 4 teams. Again, looking at chances down the middle, it's very much favouring the likes of Isak and Cunha potentially this week. Obviously, Cunha does slightly play off the left, but it is a bit of a mixed bag. It's kind of like a central left kind of position that he does play. 253 chances down the middle for Leicester, and then 247 for Ipswich, which is absolutely huge. For Mohamed Salah, it's looking a little bit worse. Spurs only have 72 chances down his side, which isn't too good in the grand scheme of things, but of course we've seen Mohamed Salah score against big teams this season so far, teams that haven't conceded a lot of chances previous to the match and then conceded 2 goals to Mohamed Salah. So I don't really think it's the biggest thing when you're looking when you're looking at the best player in the game. I don't think it's the biggest thing in the world to consider. Of course, when it comes to expected goals conceded, Spurs are still one of the worst defences, and they really could concede goals from anywhere. So it was quite close between Salah and Isak for captaincy this week, but I personally think, looking at these stats, that Mohamed Salah is the one to go for. He does have the higher expected points on both sides. He is joint with Isak for return chance and goal odds, but I think the edge comes from the higher expected minutes, the fact he has that 1 extra day's rest, which can always make a difference, and of course it is title day for Liverpool, so they're all going to be right up for it, and I do think Salah is going to get himself on the score sheet and do quite well. He's obviously got a history of doing well against Spurs. He picked up 21 points in the reverse fixture, which was away, and I think they scored 6 goals in that match as well, where Salah got 2 goals and 2 assists, so he's very capable of doing well against Spurs. I think at home he could easily do a lot better. So Mohamed Salah is going to be the captaincy pick for me in game week 34. Let me know if you agree down in the comments section, or are you going to be a little bit more differential? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe as well for more FPL content, and I'll see you all in the next one.